Hey, happy day. Oh, happy day when Jesus was. Hi, everyone. Happy day. It's February the 20th, I think. And it's you and it's me and it's not White ET. I'm glad you're here. We're talking about creepy cases of body snatching. I know it's kind of weird that we're doing that. I'm actually going to be like triple tasking. I have a ton of merch orders. This is a really great but dumb idea. While supplies last, I said, I've got to send all these out and not counting the other 12 over there. Special thanks to Sarah and Brittany and who else is it? Jake. And there's another. I'm sorry, but I'm grateful for you. Grab anything in the merch store, mug, hoodie, shirt, this very moment. And while supplies last, that's the big caveat. I'll be sending autographed CDs. I said I would do it myself. Anyway, we're going straight into the creepy cases of body snatching while I do this. And I apologize in advance, but this is a guy got to do what a guy got to do. We're talking about the utilitarian. Yeah. I was like, I almost said unilateral and my head just went nuts. The utilitarian aspect of body snatching. It's actually a real thing. It's very scary and weird, and I'm glad you're here. Be sure to subscribe right here on YouTube or wherever you're watching me. Maybe it's on Facebook, and be sure to hit the bell to notify yourself when I release new content. We go live Monday to Thursday. The demand for, they call it corpses, loved ones, in medical education led to actual body snatching from the poor. Interesting. Where unclaimed bodies provided a steady supply for anatomical studies and doctor training. You know, I've talked about it a lot, really. You have the coroner cases where we talked about these rotations in the counties, especially smaller ones, for instance, like the one I'm from, they do a rotation with the funeral homes. The reason they do that is because it helps to offset the financial burden. Because people who are unclaimed, people who have no one, people who are wards of state, for instance, I mean, it's not like they more than likely plan for their funeral from a financial standpoint. And there's a lot of expense that go into caring for a loved one, whether you want to think about that or not. It is a for-profit service. And people always say, oh, funeral homes are money. They're not. Funeral directors that I know are some of the most compassionate people. It's the last thing they want to do, and they're not really good at it as far as selling is concerned. They just want to take care of you. And whenever someone is unclaimed, then the coroner's office will rotate funeral home A, the next unclaimed loved one, funeral home B. It's really sad, I know. And when it gets to you, the level of care, you still have to go and do due diligence to try to find next of kin. There's paperwork that has to be done. You have to literally get a court order cremation done. And the county where I'm from only pays $500. And that doesn't even touch it. But what this talks about is how unclaimed bodies would be snatched for medical purposes, meaning they would do medical studies on these loved ones, whether or not it's great that doctors are training and there's studies being carried out. I don't really think they should go about stealing loved ones' bodies. I don't know where they you got to do a lot of work to steal a loved one's body. Can you see that autograph? Wait. Can you see that? Yeah, I'm autographing these. This is a gentleman's closure. This is the OG project. Came out in 2007, November 27th, 2007. It's featured in Starbucks Worldwide, 2008, throughout the year. I mean, this is like the project that started it all. This is when I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing. Not just the kid on the bus that told Miss Nicholson, like, hey, I'm going to be a pop artist and create. No, this is kind of like the solidification of it. So I'm grateful for all of you supporting the merch. What's your favorite song? Actually, you can't stream these anywhere. Like, you have to get this. There's actually a CD in here. Number 2 for creepy cases of body snatching. That's what we're talking about tonight. I'm glad you're here. Cases where bodies were actually stolen from morgues or actual graves to hide evidence of mistreatment or torture, particularly in institutions like insane asylums, highlighting the lengths to which some would go to cover up crimes. The Neltec whenever I was getting a manicure because, yeah, I got a manicure. So what? They said, hey, if you wanted to be someone that gets away with murder, then be a nail tech because you have people's DNA all over you, which is true, which sounds disgusting. But also, if someone wants to get away with murder, then they just become friends with the coroner's office. I mean, sorry to say, because they're the first on the scene of a death, and if they're like, oh well, natural causes, and you only have to have a high school diploma to be. I'm not saying this to devalue what a coroner or deputy coroner does. They do a great service, and I really appreciate those that I've come in contact with. They're great people. Who wants to devote well, obviously, I mean, like, there's not many that want to devote their lives to, hey, I want to take care of families in this regard, and I want to go to scenes of crimes and sadness and tragedy and be a part of that. Kudos. I tip my hat to coroner's offices. Thank you very, very much. We're talking about creepy cases of body snatching. I mean, there are cases like in Mexico City where they have 48,000 or 38,000 deaths alone, and there's not enough space in the cemetery. So after 7 years, you buy your plot. Then they have cemetery crews that will come in and dig the loved ones up, and they're supposed to take them to an area to be housed to then be claimed by the family, which I don't know why the family would want to pick up a whatever, remains of the loved ones' bodies. Nonetheless, there's many that don't, and that's when they will sell their bones to medical schools. Well, not medical schools, but other people that then sell them to medical schools. They just turn a blind eye. I've talked about it. If you're going to be a body donor, then there's a rabbit hole to go down for sure. There is. Here we go. That's what I'm talking. It's on here. Yeah. So we talked about concealing evidence. Now they have a thing called morbid pranks. The bizarre practice of using real dead bodies, corpses, for Halloween pranks, reflecting on societal attitudes towards death and the macabre sense of humor that led to such acts. I mean, this is ridiculous. So they talk about how in 1885, actually, in Toronto, come on, Canada? I just spit. Dadgummit. Some unknown person or persons stole the body of a man from a medical college and hung the body nude from an iron hook at the meat market. It was conveniently placed with the other meat at a butcher's stall. You're talking like probably pigs or cattle, or the report doesn't say how long it took for someone to notice the loved one hanging there, but there was no doubt one prank everyone remembered for years to come. Wow. That takes some balls. Kind of like the guy that bet. How did that work? Okay, so he bet here we go. He bet $20,000 that someone would streak at the Super Bowl. He bought a ticket for 10, and then he himself streaked, so he profited $10,000 after a night in jail. That guy has some kahungas for sure. And if you're wondering what I'm doing, if you buy any merch right now, it should be right in the store. I am sending an autographed copy of the original, the first project that started it all, A Gentleman's Closure. You can't get it anywhere else while supplies last separately. And I'm glad I did, but I wish I didn't at the same time, because this is chaos. I mean, they're all over the place. So that's what I'm doing. And we're talking about creepy cases of body snatching at the same time, because I can multitask. I'm a good guy. I'm a good multitasker. In the early 1900s, a legitimate company in Chicago was built around supplying medical schools with skeletons. Here we go. And human heads. The company went so far as to dry the human heads on the roof of the business. These dried heads were then sold to the schools for a whopping $5 a piece. One day, however, someone stole 11 heads that were drying, and then medical students were blamed for the act, and the company put up a $10 reward. Wow. That's interesting, right? I mean, it happens a lot. Like, if you are to be donating your body to science, it's an absolute beautiful thing to do, selfless, and a lot of great things come from those who donate their bodies to science. The caveat, however, is there's a gray area with medical learning So you need to make sure you study, research the facility, the school, the institute that you are signing to donate your body to, because I feel like it would be arguable that if you do a public, this is real, a public dissection at like a Drury Inn, you think I'm kidding, at the hotel's convention center, and you charge people $1,000 to just come and watch, that's not science. That's just weird. And so keep that in mind. There are some legitimate companies out there, especially in Arizona. There's the family owned. I'll figure that out and I'll have to talk about it in the future. But they educate people who are considering body donation. They give tours, kind of like what I would do, giving tours to people who are interested in the funeral profession, or maybe just interested to know why things are the way they are. If it can lower the anxiety, if only just a little, then that's great. But this family go through this entire process of showing why they do what they do, how a loved one is used, their body, and what schools, what medical facilities, what research centers receive the body. It's actually really cool that they're doing that. So I encourage you, for those of you who are considering body donation, but we are talking about body snatching right now. Like 55 bodies buried in the same plot, like mass graves, for instance. Yeah. An employee of a cemetery in Lebanon, Pennsylvania, was caught with a wagon full of deceased loved ones back in 1882. So there's been some time. During his trial, he admitted that in a 2-month time period, 55 loved ones' bodies were buried in the same burial plot at the cemetery. The bodies would be buried for the families and then dug back up later to sell. The man had been employed by the cemetery for 11 years, and he and 2 accomplices had been stealing bodies for the past 9 years. So 9 of the 11 years, he and his accomplices, they were making money off of mass graves. But in this instance, they got caught with 55. Wow. That's absurd. I don't know. I don't know how it comes to that. And I've talked about this in previous videos. We do video series over on TikTok at Nathan Morris Music, which, by the way, thank you. I don't know what's going on. It's been wild as far as just how many people are following. But I don't know, like, the psychological aspect. Like, how does it get to that? I mean, how does someone be like, okay, you know, there's this mass grave, there's all these loved ones, and I'm going to dig them up and sell them. Like, what takes them to that point? You know, this profession is, well, so reverent and beautiful, and then you've got this marker's dried out. What? Oh no. Hold it. Halt. I have another marker. Give me 2 seconds. Don't leave me, girl. Please stay with me. Okay, where was I? Like, how does it get to that point? Sorry, I have a marker. I have a gold marker now. I don't know. Let me know in the chat what your thoughts are. I mean, like, have you ever had a family member? There's 2 questions here. One is, do you have a family that has donated their body to science? And do you have any stories where you've heard of this? Like, obviously you probably don't because you're here to listen to it. That's a dumb question. You know, sometimes you just don't have the right question to ask. Halt. Resurrectionists is what they're called, by the way. People who steal dead bodies. I don't know. That sounds like a too good of a title to give someone. Why don't you step right over this way? The resurrectionist is going to assist you further. My single Last Time, it's on a couple of Spotify editorial playlists, which is super exciting because playlists are great. And then you have curator playlists, and then you have editorial playlists. Curator playlists are like, Nathan, I want to create my favorite driving mix. And so I add, you know, like Mandy Moore, Candy. But editorial playlists are actually Spotify created. That's a big deal. So last time's been added to two of those. And I'm really excited. You've got chill hits, and then you have hits, pop hits, pop, hip hop anonymous. I'm very excited. Please stream last time, share with a friend, grab some merch, and a partridge in a pear tree. Resurrectionists stole dead bodies. We're talking about creepy cases of body snatching. That's what. On top of it all, wait. Resurrectionists, people who stole dead bodies from graves, had a thankless job that could easily lead to their arrest. Well, of course. What? Did I must have been asleep. What? They sometimes had to deal directly with the pranks of young men of medical schools. In 1879, a group of medical students decided to prank one of the professional body snatchers. So they knew of these professional body snatchers. Like, it was a thing, obviously, but they knew who they actually were. They sent the body snatcher to go fetch a sacked body from a nearby hiding spot. The young men tied one of their living buddies into a sack, and the rest went into hiding to ambush the resurrectionist. The body snatcher found the sack, hoisted it over his shoulder, and began carrying it across the bridge and back to the school. Just then, the sacked prankster started to kick. The resurrectionist was so terrified that he dropped the sack into the water below the bridge, and the men waiting in the ambush had to go rescue their friend from the water and from actually drowning. He probably messed his pants, too. It's pretty interesting that these medical schools knew who the body snatchers were. Obviously, they were in cahoots with each other. I don't know that I would even want to, you don't want to hike some deceased loved one over your shoulder. Or you don't want to steal one either, but you definitely, it's weird. Let me know in the chat. I don't know. Let me know in the chat. Do you want to be a body snatcher when you grow up? The answer, children, is no. This one works. Ooh, it looks really good too. Oh, that's awesome. Edward? No, Nathan. I looked like that before Edward Cullen looked like Edward. 1913, this is creepy cases of body snatching. The folks in a small town in Arkansas, they were keeping watch over a loved one's body inside the house of a deceased farmer. So inside the deceased farmer's house is the deceased farmer. To everyone's surprise, a creature walked into the home carrying a chain across their shoulders. Oh my gosh. This is a documented case, by the way. He was wearing a white robe and had red, long hair. The creature's face was painted red, and he had 2 horns set onto his head. So this story goes. The people who were keeping watch were so frightened that they ran out of the house. When they were finally brave enough to return, the body of the farmer was gone. Whoa. I would just... No. Nope. No way, Jose. You couldn't pay me enough money to ever enter that place again. People ask me a lot, and I go live on TikTok on Sundays. It's a subscribers only, because we're going to be touring this year, and subscribers get first looks, first listens. We'll be doing a lot of really cool VIP experiences, and people ask me a lot about experiences that I've had. Do you have any paranormal where you felt uneasy? No. However, if I've experienced that, I would never, ever in a million years, ever step foot into doing anything like that again. But on a good note, there was a farmer who had a duck. There was a farmer that the funeral home that I started at, when they died, they wanted to be in their pajamas and laid in their bed and have visitation at the house, and all the family could go and, have a wake, which the funeral home, carried that out. So brought the loved one back, prepared the loved one, put them in their favorite pajamas, took them back to their house for visitation, laid them in the bed, and then the day of the funeral, of course, placed them in the casket they selected, and then took them to be buried. But that's pretty cool. Now, the funeral home, the funeral directors have to stay with the loved one's physical body, just so you know. Let me know in the chat, have you ever had anything like that, where you went to the actual house, not the funeral home, the house of someone, and have their body present? I mean, it's what they used to do. And by the way, circling back to the asylum, people who were obviously penniless and had no family, they would steal their bodies because they were considered indigent or coroner cases, so to speak. That's what you call them now. Also, the people who have insane asylums, they were probably not, I hate to say it, like cared for, cared about. There were very, very many, tons of cases of mistreating of people with mental illness, mental health challenges. It was so misunderstood. Let's use this shock therapy and just annihilate your brain and hurt you. Actually, hurt you even more. Makes sense. Anyway, this is my brain. I love the rabbit holes of learning about our history. I love learning about stories where there are crimes involved, and there's like maybe they're unsolved crimes that go unsolved for decades. I love the paranormal just because of the unknown. And these stories of body snatchers, it's part of history. We talk about all this stuff, not only on this channel here on YouTube, which you should subscribe to. Click the bell to be notified if you're watching on Facebook. Thank you for being here, and we are tech savvy in the studio. Pretty pumped about it. Have an interview tomorrow with NBC, and more on that soon. And a couple of interviews are going to be posted from doing a lot of radio interviews. We're doing phone interviews. We're doing in-person interviews. Last time is still number 12. It's got to go to 10. Come on. It's got to go to 10. It's going to go to 10. It's going to go to 10. Stolen for ransom. All right, here we go. We're talking about creepy cases of body snatching. Throughout history, thieves have stolen bodies. And held them for ransom even. In 1891, that's an 8, by the way, 1881, the body of Earl of Crawford was stolen out of the family's mausoleum in Aberdeen, which, by the way, there are tons of stories in history, even our presidents, where presidents are buried and there are people who are attempting to steal their bodies for payback, for ransom. It's not uncommon, believe it or not. So it's if you want to question its truthfulness or its truth, then I'll tell you, you can read about countless stories. Even it was President Lincoln. I mean, more than just Lincoln. It was good business to steal bodies. Interesting, especially bodies of people who are wealthy, notable people, had money. If the body was a young child or infant, they would steal them. In 1910, the body of an infant was removed from its grave in Montana. It was the son of a millionaire, and the family was told to pay a large ransom for the body to be returned, which they did. Which, you mess with the kid in life and endure death, you are getting kicked in the throat. Absolutely. I remember I was at Walmart one time, at the Walmart, went to the Target, the Walmart, and this woman was just like, I heard her in the other aisle just yelling and just like faint. It's kind of muffled, and I get around and she's dog cussing this little boy. And this little boy's just looking so defeated. And I look at the woman, and I said, I assure you what you are doing is not helping. She said, who do you think you are? It's none of your business. And I said, with all due respect, you made it my business when you started to sound like I said ass in front of the kid, like an ass in a public place. Please stop yelling at the boy. The boy looked at me like I was a saint, which is really sad to think about. So anyway, like I said, in life and or death, you hurt a child, you bother a child, I'm going to kick you in the throat. I didn't kick the woman in the throat. Let me know in the chat. Have you ever seen that in public, by the way? Like seen someone just accosting someone, especially a kid. Poor kids. I mean, kids are little buttheads, but they're sweet little buttheads. All right. Body snatchers in England. They were highly skilled. So this is like becomes a thing. At one point in history in the 1800s, England had super successful, you get the idea. So they had a guard in place at cemeteries to protect the bodies, the deceased loved ones at night. The guards were well paid by the body snatchers to look the other way. I mean, that happens today. Not necessarily with stealing of bodies, but from the top to the bottom, you have it. Upon finding a fresh grave, the snatchers wasted no time getting the body. Instead of removing, all the ground They only removed the dirt from the head or top portion of the coffin. After reaching the coffin, it was broken open and a rope was tied under the arms. Once the loved one was up, the dead body, its clothing was removed and thrown back into the coffin. The dirt was placed and the body was taken. It is estimated that it took professional body snatchers only 15 minutes to remove a deceased loved one from the casket, from the dirt, put the clothes back in the casket, close the casket, and put the dirt back over and out. That takes a lot of skill because, I mean, you see big machinery, big equipment. After they dig the grave, you have to lower the casket into the vault, shut the vault, put the dirt back on time, get all the stuff, like the equipment and all of the, whether it's wood, plywood, or tracks to protect, well, track guards, whatever it's called, rubber to protect the grounds. 15 minutes and none of that. That's wild. Let me know in the chat, have you ever actually seen a loved one's grave being closed, like where the casket's lowered, the vault's closed, and then the dirt's placed back over top? There's something final about that that's beautiful and reverent, because for the longest time you have the dismissal at the cemetery. People leave before the lowering of the casket. And I think there's something really dignified about it. There's something holy about it, just staying and being present. And that was the rule that we had, is we won't leave until the process is complete. And military will do that too whenever they assign someone, an officer, a soldier with someone killed in action, for instance. They'll travel with them until the entire process is complete. It's a beautiful act of reverence, really. But have you seen the completion of and closing of a grave? Boiled down to bones. Before we do the final one, just so you know, I've signed 2, 4, 3, 10 A Gentleman's Closure records. This is the first project that started it all. I'm giving these away with any purchase of a mug, a shirt, a hoodie in the merch store, brand new store while supplies last. It's cool to read this. I mean, this is like to feel it. This is in the credits on the inside. It says doors open and close. Sometimes they do both too quickly, giving you little time to react. This year has been a year of finding that out. This is 2007. I've documented a tough year of my life that's at times hard to look back on. Oh, but how I've learned. It's easy to breeze through life when things are smooth, but true character is tested when you're down, when things aren't. Closure, what a beautiful thing. Life, what a beautiful thing. That's awesome. It's really, really cool. Anyway, I'm very proud of this project. It's featured in Starbucks Worldwide. It was, rather. And that's my every paycheck, every penny, through the help of like Jody and Sarah and, Walters and Brent and everybody. They made that project happen. And I love it. And it's actually, there's a remastered of it, which Nathan Walters, back in 2023, we re-released it. But this is the original. And I'm sending those out while supplies last. And I know that was long-winded, but I can do what I want. This is my real estate, says Gary V. I love that, by the way. Gary V, I'm going to halt. No, Gary V, he's amazing. He's very unconventional. He's this guy just obsessed with hard work, obsessed with why can't you do it? Do it. He basically was talking about how people come to his social media platforms, which are public places for you to visit. You're here, and I'm grateful for you to be. However, it's like being invited into someone's home, and you're throwing dirt, and you're talking shit, and he's like, and you're not even taking off. It's like the equivalent of you coming to my house, not being invited, and not taking your shoes off and getting it all muddy. Like, I can do what I want. I can say what I want. You're here. Take your shoes off. So be kind. I don't know why I got on that, but do it. So talking about creepy cases of body snatching. Squirrel. 1885, the basement of a home in Chinatown, San Francisco. The city's coroner made a gruesome discovery. Complaints were being made about a stench coming from the building. And when the coroner investigated the scene, he discovered decomposing human bodies in the basement. In another room, he caught Chinese workers busily busily boiling down the bodies and scraping the meat off the bones. Listen, I forgot it got this gruesome. My apologies. But you're here. This is my real estate. Take off your shoes. Let me know in the chat. I don't know what to even ask. By the end of the initial investigation, 300 dead bodies were found in the basement. Most of them had been stolen from cemeteries within the California state. The business behind the travesty involved the deceased people's family members who were back in China. When a Chinese person died and was buried, these body snatchers would remove the bodies, boil them down to bones, and then ship the bones back to China for free. What? What in the world? That, my friends, that's insane. I'll tell you, that's nutso. Do you want to be buried or cremated? I know I'm shifting gears. Do you know what you want when it's time, when the curtain closes on your life? Do you know what you want as far as celebration is concerned? Let me know in the chat. I mean, like, cremation has become this more popular thing, I feel, because a couple of reasons. One, I feel like it was a price thing. I also feel it was a diminishing of like celebration, meaning I feel that people, you, us as a whole, we've kind of devalued ourselves and we don't feel that we're worthy to be celebrated. And so much so that even whenever you have the topic come up and you talk about it in videos, people are like, just throw me in the dirt or just throw me into a fire and you're all about money. No, it's not. Halt. It's not about that. I think especially, you have the pandemic, and then of course it minimizes, almost eliminates the ability to gather, obviously, to create this sense of celebration. And post COVID, you have 2-day visitations have turned into one. You have 46 to 48% in Kentucky, for some 50, but 46 to 48% is cremation. 80% out west. Memorial service, maybe not, but it's this very interesting thing that's happened. It was, I feel, first a cost thing. I felt it was a devalue of self thing, and I don't know how to get back. And I know it will. I mean, everything is cyclical, like with sounds with music, for instance. You have a lot of samples, songs from the 70s and 80s, and you have sounds that go back to the 70s and 80s coming back with, it's just a cyclical thing. I think that it'll get back to it, but I don't know how it could be encouraged to get back to that. And again, it's not a monetary desire. It's simply, I obsess over people realizing they're valued and worthy to be celebrated. And I see the value in celebration as someone that's what they devoted their lives to, and they, at the cost of themselves, that's what funeral professionals do. It's like they so badly want you to be cared for. And direct cremation means direct to the crematory after paperwork. There's nothing. The loved one's cremated, and then they might be placed in keepsakes, or they might be placed in a permanent urn, but they will be placed in a temporary, and they will be given back to the family. It's like this football. It's like, no more football. Like, have this experience. You deserve it. Your family wants to gather. They want to sense and feel a community that believes that the loved one who they're mourning is loved, honored, recognized as well. It's a real thing. Let me know in the chat, like, what do you want? I mean, I don't want to take away if someone's real, genuine desire is for cremation, then great. I want to also let people know that there's a celebration that can happen before. The loved one's physical body doesn't have to be present. However, it most certainly can be, and a lot of people didn't realize that. There's just a lot of different options and ways to create a meaningful celebration and farewell. And I want people to get back to realizing that they're worthy to be celebrated. It's like some people are like, don't make a fuss about me, even in life. Why? You're pretty damn awesome. Let me know in the chat, like, what do you want? What do you want to be remembered for? Because you will be remembered for something. I think death does just one of two things. It makes us bitter or it makes us better. And I've sensed it time and time again. There have been moments where I've been bitter. You carry it all in your backpack, especially if you're in death care. And I encourage you this moment. I encourage you to think about the funeral home that cared for you, that you've experienced. Go to their Google page and give them a review and thank them, or reach out to them, write them a card, thank them for their service, thank them if you had a good experience, of course. I mean, if it was a shit experience, then you don't want to be, I'm not telling you to give them credit whenever they don't necessarily deserve it. But my point is there's a service that genuinely and wholeheartedly believes in your story and sharing it, however that looks. And I think that's pretty cool, at the cost of themselves. And if you're still with me, it's interesting that, the 8-year-old Nathan, stood on the bus stop corner, and I realized at an early age that I was going to be this huge, massive pop star. And I didn't know what it was going to look like, but I knew it was going to happen. And then you make plans, God smiles, life happens, and then you look at what's happening now and you're like, oh my gosh. And it's just like this. It's just, we got shows booking. We have a single charting. The first single was charting. I'm the first independent artist in decades to have 2 charting singles at Billboard simultaneously. It's overwhelming. It's amazing. I have merch, which you can buy, by the way. I have a lot of really cool things going, and I'm grateful. I never could have fathomed this in the million years. Like, I couldn't have created this in my head. It's like, you know what you want, or so you think. You know what's going to happen, and it happens plus, and it's really exciting. And there's been a lot of crazy noise that's happened, and there's a lot of things that have happened in the past year where you've remained quiet, and you continue to, and you keep your head down, and you do what's right, and you just know that goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and the truth will prevail and come out, and that's great. And I just want, more than anything, you to know that I meet you here. I appreciate you. I value you. You are worthy. You are important, and this world needs you. And until I'm no more, that's what I want to make sure that you know. And last but not least, I'm selling my childhood home. I did a podcast on it, and Bonus Noise Podcast, which is a subscription only. We did an exclusive release for everybody to hear it. I tell the entire story of why I bought it, but it is for sale. It is available, and I will link it. And if you want to schedule a tour, a showing, then you can just contact the agent. That's the Darty Phelps group. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Dave. They have a sign in the yard. It could be yours. There's a lot of really cool memories there, but it took a lot of work to see that. And the story is on the podcast. And of course, You'll Die Trying episodes release every week. I go live here Monday through Thursday on YouTube. Yep. And of course, Sunday nights, exclusive TikTok lives. We work a lot. You think that it's just, you film a couple videos and you peace out. No, it's a lot of grinding, a lot of hard work. And I'm grateful that you're a part of every bit of it. Thank you very much. That's all for this, folks. You've heard it first, and then I didn't see if you've ordered merch. Thanks in advance. I'm personally sending this out. Like, I'm doing it. I really am doing it. So I don't know how many we have left, but seeing this makes me grateful to know that you all really care. You all buying merch, please do, because it supports me. This is what I do full time. Creating things that are meaningful to you. For me first, but creating things that I find meaningful, giving them to you. All right. You love far more than you could ever know. I've signed these. Signed, sealed, delivered. All right. See you at the next one. Like the next.